Hello everyone, I am Dan Toohey. I'm your teacher for this online class. I will be making these very informal videos every week and posting them in on the Blackboard site in the folder for the week, for the topic of the week. And if there's one thing that's optional and not required in this course, it's watching these videos, but it's something that I've always done. It's my way of feeling like a teacher and compensating for that class time. Maybe I just like to talk and I have to find a way to do it. But these videos will be a way for me every week to say a few things about the materials that you'll be looking at, which are various materials, as you'll see, everything from scholarly papers to lots of clips from television shows, documentaries, newspaper articles, and such. But I wanted to make this video especially to begin the class to explain, not so much how I'm going about the class, which I think is rather self-evident if you look at the syllabus and you look at the materials, which are arranged by topic, and look at the course schedule, you'll see that it's pretty standard stuff in a way. But I want to explain why I chose the topics that I did for this course, current ethical issues. I have taught it before, and I have tried to be current. Sometimes tried harder than other times. But I really tried this time to have us look at issues that I thought legitimately fit the description in the course title, Current Ethical Issues. That is not always the case. There are sort of stock ethical issues, which are no doubt important things that classes like this, and I have taught classes like that, where it's stock issues like abortion and euthanasia and things like that, which are of course very important ethical issues, don't get me wrong, but maybe getting a little tired or tiresome in terms of discussion. Not that those things aren't still important again, but I wanted this time to really be thoughtful about what it means to be an American right now, paying some attention to public life. That is, what are the issues that are the issues of our time? That is, what people are interested in, and things are happening, things are moving one way or another. So I came up with a bunch of issues, not the ones that I think personally, from my point of view, personally, me, Dan Toohey, that I think are the most important things. Some of them I do. Some of them I don't, but I wanted to say, what are the issues of our time? What are the ethical issues of our time? And I think if we look around us, look around ourselves in this world, from an American point of view perhaps, but also from a global point of view, the world's changing, isn't it? It certainly is changing. And some of the ways in which it's changing, I have to say personally, are very encouraging. And some of the ways that it's changing are not so encouraging and are distressing. And be that as it may, the issues that I have chosen are the ones that I think that there's a lot of movement on. That we can see certain moral issues or ethical issues where the world around us, especially if you're somebody my age, you can see that certain things are happening that you maybe never thought would happen or couldn't have anticipated. And again, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. Okay, so I have tried, just to say, I have tried to pick issues that are interesting and that are topical and are of current attention and importance, and ethical problems being raised by the way the world is changing. I am 46 years old, and that doesn't make me ancient, but it doesn't exactly make me young. And I think that in certain respects, the world is changing in ways that I couldn't have anticipated. So that kind of affected the way that I thought about how to choose issues, which aren't, revolutionary. I mean, they're issues that we've all sort of, we read the paper, or maybe not read the paper, but look on the internet and see these issues being discussed. Last year, a couple really interesting things happened. I thought, in America, and maybe it wasn't so important and earth-shaking in itself because it doesn't mean that it's going to be revolutionize the way we live. But last year, 2 states in the United States made the recreational use of marijuana legal, free and legal. And we'll see how that turns out. But I'll tell you, as a non-pot smoker, frankly, never enjoyed it, never liked it, and don't plan on going to Amsterdam anytime soon. But you don't need to go to Amsterdam anymore. You can go to Denver or is it Portland? I guess Washington State. Oregon. Portland, Oregon. Is it Oregon or Washington? I can't. Those Pacific Northwest states, I always get them mixed up. I got to tell you, I never really thought that would happen. That pot would be legal in the U.S. And maybe again, it's not that important really in the end that people can get high legally in the United States instead of illegally or semi-legally as they've been doing forever. But it seemed to be a real milestone and portent of change and perhaps things to come. Who knows? But so I thought we would talk about that. We would talk about drugs and not just marijuana, but drug use in particular, because it seemed to me that country was perhaps moving in a different direction, and that this is an important ethical issue and an important change in our time. What else happened last year? Well, it's a continuing trend, just like the marijuana issue is a continuing trend. I mean, there's been medical marijuana legal since the mid 90s in California. I think in 95 or 96 made it legal for medical uses, but I don't know if that exactly was held to. Same-sex marriage or gay marriage happened and has been happening, and what was interesting last year is that not only mainstream Democratic politicians, but now a lot of Republican politicians are getting behind it, and I never thought that would happen. I'm not saying I never thought that gay marriage would become legal in the United States, but I never thought that a sizable amount of national Republican figures would get behind it. Amazing. If we think just back to '96, the Defense of Marriage Act, which was kind of anti-gay marriage thing that was signed into law by President Clinton, Bill Clinton in '96. Majority of both houses of Congress, less than 20 years ago, that could never happen today, and that's an amazing change in our country. An amazing change is going on around the world. Raises all sorts of ethical issues. And they're worth talking about because, of course, there is still very strong opposition to gay marriage, and we'll read some things about that, especially from the Catholic Church. What else? Well, those issues are of course, important, but maybe they're not the most important issues. And if you are a person of a liberal or so-called progressive persuasion, you might see those issues as signs of progress, of good things happening in the world and in our country. But there's other changes too, which maybe aren't, to anyone's mind, good things. First, and I think most fundamentally, and the most under-talked about ethical issue of our time is global warming and generally environmental destruction, so-called climate change. We'll call it global warming because that's what the problem is that the globe is getting warmer. And all sorts of changes are happening because of that, and most of those changes are predicted to be very bad. And all sorts of moral issues are being faced right now, and progressively will have to be faced in the future, having to do with resources, having to do with the changes in the living patterns of human beings because of rising sea levels, changes because of differences in availability of water, habitat for animals, raising crops. There's so many unknowns that exist in environment change because of global warming. But there's almost too much to talk about for like a whole semester, but we'll just be doing it for a week. But that seems to me to be perhaps the most important ethical issue of our time. Changes in the environment, where we all know that something's happening with the weather, with the environment, with the climate, I should say, and not a lot is being done, and that is very disturbing. Another issue I thought was very topical, and that in a class that would be truly about current ethical issues in America would be income inequality. Uh, we all see the world from a particular point of view, and there's no reason that you have to see it from my point of view or share my opinions. But it does seem to me that there is a very troubling and real change going on in American life with class distinctions. Living in the city of Philadelphia as I do, perhaps I have a particular environment that encourages that, but there's a lot of poor people in America, and perhaps there always have been. But there was always something called the American dream, and there was always something called social mobility and economic mobility, and that is really being questioned these days. We'll look at a video in which a sociologist or I think a sociologist or maybe a psychologist says that if you want to find the American dream, move to Finland, which is a reference to the fact that in Finland and other countries around the world, there's actually more social mobility than there is economic mobility than there is in the United States, and that is a very, very troubling thing. The politics or the ethics of economics and poverty, of class and economic inequality is a very, very important issue, I would say, for us, our children, our grandchildren, our parents. I've also decided to talk about healthcare. I think that maybe that's more standard than the others, but that is certainly an incredibly important ethical issue in America, which is a very strange place, America. And don't get me wrong, it's great. I'm an American. I don't regret it. But one of the things I'll ask you to look at is a very, I think, watchable documentary. And I'll be relying a lot on documentary material from a PBS program called Frontline, which is an incredibly good social issue and politics documentary series that's been around forever on PBS. But it's called Sick Around the World. I've watched it with students before. It's from about 4 or 5 years ago. But it shows you the way that healthcare is done in some other countries, England, Germany, Japan, Switzerland, I believe. And it's a real eye-opener, really is, for an American. We live in a country where we have great resources, very technologically advanced, and in which there's a lot of wealth, in which there are a lot of sick people who can't get care. And whether something should be done about that and what should be done about that, that is open to debate. But I don't think anybody would deny that more people in this country need access to decent health care and don't get it, and that's an ethical issue right there. So I think that's it. Oh no, well, there's one more. There's actually two more. First, we're doing a whole week on the effects of digital technology, and here we are. Isn't that ironic? We're talking to you on the internet, if anybody's watching. Having an online class is part of that. The effects of digital technology. How is digital technology, by that I mean the internet, use of computers, mostly the internet, cell phones, the whole thing sort of blends together. How is that changing us? How is that changing the way we treat each other? How is that changing the way we think? How is that changing the way we work? How is that changing the world? It's very exciting that we can have a class like this where we don't actually have to show up at LaSalle in the summertime. Isn't that just great? But is this really education? Is what we're doing, you and me right now, is this education? Is this the way it should be? Shouldn't we be in a classroom reading a book? So I think that's a very important issue, frankly, the effects of internet, cell phones, digital technology in general on human beings. Finally, what are we doing? Well, I think we have an extra week, and I want to talk about the future. I want to talk about the future with you. I think that a lot of, when we think about public life, when we think about current social issues that have ethical relevance, we're thinking about the future. We're thinking about what kind of world we want to live in, what kind of world we want to leave for our children. So we'll do a week on that.